Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. I'm a 33-year-old female who was adopted into a regular family when I was about 10 months old. My parents adopted me because they couldn't have a child and were getting old. I had a decent set of parents and a grandmother, and they provided me with everything I needed. When I was 3 years old, we even moved into a new house that my parents bought. On my 7th birthday, my mom discovered that she was pregnant, and a few months later, that my sister was born. During this time, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and she was the one who told me that I was adopted and how my sister's birth was different. I obviously did not understand it too well, or what difference it would make to my life. After some time, my mom came home and the house was busy trying to adjust to the newborn. And that's when the neglect began. My mom and dad would spend so much time with the baby. This continued while growing up as well. It's not like my parents were mean to me. It's just that they would always be fussing over my sister. My sister grew very conscious about this and started to dominate and make fun of me. And when she learned that I was adopted, she bullied me more by saying that I was the child they picked up from the trash bin. But I loved my parents and my sister, so I didn't complain. When I was about 12 years old, my sister stole one of my favorite dresses and tore it. I was so upset that I screamed at her. She went running to my parents crying, saying that I had hit her and was lying about her tearing my dress. My parents believed her. After that, she would frequently lie about me and tell our parents that I was hurting her. My parents, who loved their own daughter, decided that it was best to separate us. Hence, they decided to send me to live with my grandmother in a different city. That was the last day I saw them. I cried for days, and grandmother could only try to console me. With time, I just blocked that part of my life. When I was about 18, I reconnected with my birth mother, and a while after this, my grandmother died. As my birth mother was now in a better place in life, and we established a good relationship, and she helped me get through college and everything. My adoptive parents died within 4 years of each other. My adoptive mom died 3 months ago, and I attended the funeral merely out of courtesy to offer condolences to my sister. Few weeks after the funeral, my sister called me after what seemed like forever. She was suddenly so sweet and asked about me and how I was doing. Then she said that she wanted to meet to make up for all the time lost, and she apologized for everything she had done. Even though I didn't want to meet her, I decided to give her a chance. My birth mother asked me to be careful and warned me that things may go south. Anyways, we met over coffee. We were talking, and that's when the little snake in her revealed herself. She then tells me that our parents had one property, and that was the house. In the property papers, they had filed me as the nominee, meaning that after they die, I would inherit the house. I was surprised, but I immediately realized that when they had bought the house, I was their only child, and that they had forgotten to update the nominee details before they died. Now, my sister said she needed to get a no objection certificate from me to transfer the property to her name, because apparently she's their real daughter. I blatantly said no. She sat there in disbelief. Then I went on to remind her about all the BS she and they had put me through. She got so angry and started screaming at me, saying that I was greedy. She said, "You did not deserve even the little attention and care you received from my parents. At least they were kind enough to send you to Granny's." I was boiling inside, but remained calm. The screaming got so bad that she eventually got thrown out of the coffee shop because of the ruckus she created. Now, am I the a-hole for not signing the no objection certificate to let my sister get the house? Update. Over the months, my sister tried suing me for fraud, and when that failed, she and her phony lawyer tried to annul my adoption to prove that I'm not the legal heir. Both the cases got thrown out. My lawyer informed me that as per the law, it was mandatory that my adoptive parents willed me a property exceeding a certain value at my adoption. And that's why I was made the nominee. And as per law, adoptive parents can't remove a property willed to their adopted child. That's why I was still left the nominee. Not because they forgot to update the will like I thought. Meanwhile, I'm trying to work with my birth mom, whose new husband is a realtor, to list the house for sale. Your adoptive sister grew up to be a terrible person, and your adoptive parents played a huge part in that, OP. You didn't deserve the kind of trauma they put you through. They showed you love and care. But when they could replace you with their child, that love and care turned to indifference. As a child, that must have hurt. I'm sure your adoptive parents realized there was nothing they could do about them giving you the house, and that was why they left it as it is. You should leave it as it is too. I'm sure even though you got the house, they surely thought of how to make sure their precious daughter wouldn't suffer while they're gone. Take the house as compensation. Story 2. Backstory. I work for a local pop-up with a hard but kind chef, and we had an event an hour and 15 minutes away from home yesterday. It ended up that my boyfriend, also in the food industry, his business partner and the partner's girlfriend needed to be in the same place a little later for a party. I offered to drive them and be the DD on the way home. I had planned to leave the house by 3:30 and drive to the destination, which left a buffer time of 15 minutes to get to work on time. I told them all this in the morning, and 3:15 rolls around, and come to find out we still need to drop the partner's girlfriend's dog at puppy sitters across town. I say I'm leaving at 3:30 for our destination with or without them, so I'm not late. 2 minutes later, they say they are ready, so I finish my eyeliner and we go to take off. Turns out I misunderstood what ready meant. They meant ready to drop the dog off and leave from there. I thought they meant ready to leave for our destination. Anywho, I'm fuming now because I know I'm late. I really love my boss and want her to succeed, and my being even 10 minutes late will stress her and put us behind. I didn't act my best self in this moment to those in the car, but I texted my boss I would be late due to unforeseen traffic, and left it at that. I'll take my lumps for misunderstanding since there was nothing to be done. The issue is, what I found out at the end of service from my boss was that my boyfriend texted my boss explaining the real situation and took blame. I told her I had not known, and she told me she knew I didn't know because I didn't seem like I needed a man to send my late text for me. When I went to pick them up, I was exhausted and upset. I smiled at the party, but as we were leaving, I pulled him aside to figure out if maybe it was a miscommunication when I heard, "Be sure to text her." It was really, "I will text her." He told me no, he didn't ask, he just sent it. When I was upset by this, he retorted that he had been in the industry longer, and something along the lines of, he's a boss so he knows how upset she will be by my lateness. I dropped it because I could tell we were not getting to the bottom of it that night and did not feel like fuming for the entire drive home. Am I the a-hole for still being upset? And I haven't yet, revisiting the disagreement this morning. I feel treated like a child. As a boss myself in a different seasonal industry, I don't care what the late excuse is, unless it's something major. Just text me, and if it's a recurring problem, then it becomes an issue. I think there are no a-holes here, OP, but you might try and dig into what specifically bothers you about your boyfriend's text. Because he didn't ask you if it was okay first? Because he pushed himself into a situation, bringing it up again when you thought it was over and done with? Because he shouldn't be talking to your boss about you behind your back? If you can get down to why it bugged you, then you can have a conversation with your boyfriend, and maybe you can both learn from it and build on it. Now for some comments. If your boyfriend understands the industry, why did he put you in a position to be late in the first place? He should have told his partner to find his own way if he needed to make an extra stop. You're not the a-hole. I run my place of employment. I don't want people who aren't my employee contacting me regarding these issues unless someone is in the hospital or something like that. Not the a-hole. Everyone's relationship dynamic is different, but in my opinion, texting your boss for you is overstepping, and even though he probably didn't mean it as such, kind of condescending. I am a manager too, so my word means more and my apology will have more weight. You can see where he was actually trying to do something nice for you. He didn't want you to get in trouble, so he texted her for you. It reads as a bit careless, and if it were me, it would be something we could pretty easily get past with communication of your feelings as to why you're upset, and his acknowledgement and acceptance that in future, this is not what you want him to do. Neither of you are a-holes. Honestly, I've done the same thing with my wife's boss. They're friends, but we are close acquaintances now too from association. I had to drop her off because of car troubles and I was running late. So I sent a text to the boss saying that it was my fault. That being said, I understand where you're coming from too. It can look bad to have someone else do this, but I think that's only if the boss and significant other don't know each other. Like you said, they know each other. At least a little bit, so it won't look like he's covering for you so much as just explaining what happened. Think of it as him corroborating your story more so than trying to cover for you. However, I do think you should bring it up again. Don't cast blame, and he shouldn't cast blame or deflect either. Just tell him not to do it again. Story 3. Background. I work at a small business-oriented hotel in a part of town that isn't the best. We are like 5 miles from Section 8 government housing, and we sometimes get drug addicts coming in here to try to do whatever it is they do. We've found people passed out with needles in their arms in the bathroom before. I also live in an illegal state, but I smoke weed regularly at my house or in my car in front of my house. This is relevant. Yesterday, 2 guys came in that I knew weren't staying there. I checked almost all of our guests in, and business is very slow right now, so we only have people in 5 or 6 rooms right now. And they both went right to the bathroom. Our bathroom is just a single toilet and sink, so I thought it was pretty weird that they both went in there, but I'm a girl and I've gone into the same bathroom as my friends before, so I let them be. They were in there for about 15 minutes, and I was about to go knock on the door and ask them to leave when one of our guests came down to try to use the bathroom. When the guys heard the door handle rattle, they left like right after that, and I went in to see what they were doing. There were cigarillo guts, tobacco all over the floor and in the toilet. And there were weed flakes on the sink counter, as well as a very strong weed smoke smell indicating they smoked a blunt. I called my boss, but since they left, they couldn't really do anything. And I figured they wouldn't come back because who would be that stupid? Anyways, today they both came back. One of the guys came in our side door and went right to the bathroom, so I couldn't see him. And one came in the front door. I immediately told him that he needed to get his friend out of the bathroom and get off the property. They were hesitant to go, but eventually they left, and they walked around our parking lot for a few minutes. I called the lady who works at the hotel next door. My boss owns both hotels. Because they were standing in between them, and we shooed them off. They took off running into the woods behind the property, and she told me to call the cops. My boss also told me to call the cops if I saw them again. So the cops got here and I gave them their descriptions and told them which way they went. I had good descriptions and the way they went is pretty straightforward, so I would guess that they wouldn't be that hard to find. So here's my issue. I'm a frequent smoker and an obvious proponent for legalization. Since I work here, I know it's my job to enforce the rules, but I feel like calling the cops on them makes me a hypocrite. I would have been fine just shooing them off the property for trespassing, but since I gave the police their descriptions, I feel like they're probably going to get arrested for having weed as well as trespassing. I just feel bad, because I don't think weed should be illegal, but also I would never be stupid enough to go into a hotel I'm not staying at to smoke weed in the bathroom literally right next to the front desk. Am I the a-hole here? I was just following rules. I would be very upset if the cops were ever called on me for smoking weed. But also, it is illegal, so that's a gamble I'm taking. Now for some comments. These guys drank some water then trashed the place. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops even though I also drink water? Don't get hung up on some bullshit brotherhood of drug users and overlook the actual problems. You can be for weed, but against trespassing, smoking on other people's property after they've asked you not to, littering, being stupid a-holes, etc. Sounds to me like you did your job, OP. It doesn't make you a hypocrite when you do your thing with as much subtlety as you can manage. And then people like that pop up who are both breaking the law and being general douche nozzles. Yeah, private consumption of weed, politely and unobtrusively, should be legal. But they left your bathroom trashed and were generally stupid, and that affects your job and the people around you, which is neither polite nor unobtrusive. You're totally not the a-hole, coming from a guy who lives in a legal state, but has done the same thing when similar people decided the bathroom at my job was ideal to light up. As soon as your superior made it a point to call the cops, you're not an a-hole in that situation. It's your job. On top of that, they behaved quite ignorantly in their actions to smoke in a public bathroom and then returned to said bathroom presumably to do it again. What did they expect to come of that? It's also important to distinct that the context in which they are smoking is inherently disrespectful to not only the owners of the property, but other people in public who could be exposed to it. From what you describe, you smoke on your own without pulling other stakeholders, that is, other people into it. Even in a state of legality, what they did should be illegal.